Hello, you are listening to On The Topic. And well, this week, apparently, Captain Marvel wears the same Crocs as my missus. I'm Dan.
It's a claim to fame. And I'm going to use an animal's term for a verb. I'm flurking my way through this episode.
Oh.
I'm Alex.
Wordsmith.
And, I did struggle at the end of the last episode, didn't I, Dan? To think about how close it. We were tripping over each other's intros and exits and all over the place. And this is, of course, hot off the heels, so to speak, of our cinema visit, Dan.
It is.
So last Thursday we had another romantic rendezvous, and we did an on-the-go episode, didn't we?
We love it, don't we?
What's the on-the-go episode, Dan? What do we do on the on-the-goes?
What happens on an on-the-go episode, if you haven't listened, we go to the cinema, we record our thoughts before we watch the film.
Hopes and dreams.
And within the blink of an eye, we're out of the cinema and we're giving you a spoiler-free review.
We do, yeah. And we talk about, what our initial thoughts were, trying to avoid those spoilers, as Dan said, as much as possible. But this is the actual spoilerific review.
It is.
We'll talk about it, no doubt, in a bit. Not many people have seen this film, Dan, so I'm not sure if that's a good or bad thing for, you listening that are clearly listening right now. Either you're not going to watch it and you're going to wait till the streaming and you don't mind listening to this episode, in which case that's also fine. Or your plans, you haven't got round to it yet. And I guess if you're on the latter and you're planning and you haven't got round to it yet, you probably want to put this on pause.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening, by the way. Put this on pause and then come back to this after you've seen it, because we don't want to spoil anything for you, but we will be talking about our thoughts, some of the key scenes, mid-end credit scenes. Well, actually, there's only one mid-credit.
Yeah, there's only one.
There's no end credit. So if you haven't seen it and you're going to, don't stay to the end of the credits. That's extra 8 minutes of your life you can get back. You're welcome. There's only one mid-credit after they do the initial cast.
Hopefully you've avoided it as well, because there are some spoilers on the old doom scroll on the social medias. So be careful.
But with that in spirit in mind, should we give the spoiler klaxon a go?
Let's dust her off.
Good old squeaker. There we
Love
go.
it.
So, yes, we... should we get into it, Dan?
Let's do it. Let's kick things off with the synopsis.
Let's do it.
The Marvels is a 2023 American superhero film. It is the sequel to the film Captain Marvel from 2019, a continuation of the television miniseries Ms. Marvel from 2022, and it's the 33rd film in the MCU.
Also a slight continuation to WandaVision as well.
It is, yeah.
In 21?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah.
One of our COVID episodes, believe it or not. I think we did about 3 of them.
October 21, wasn't it? Because it's Halloween? Did it straddle?
Was
it
I want to say it was February.
Maybe it was February, yeah.
Yeah. In the film, Danvers, Rambo and Khan team up after they begin swapping places with each other every time they use their powers.
Budget, Dan?
The budget is 219.8 million net, but the gross was 274.8 million gross.
Box office as of today is 162.6 million. So 162 against a spend of 274. And it's 2 and a bit weeks in.
Yeah, it's not. It didn't have a strong first weekend, and it certainly has fallen quite steeply. I think it was 70% by this weekend just gone. It's quite bleak.
And we'll talk about, the what the critics and the audience saying that as usual at the end. And I've got some comments from Iman Vellani, who plays Kamal Khan.
Yes, I think I saw them today.
And what her thoughts are. But should we get into the cast?
Yeah, let's do it. So we've got it's directed by Nia DaCosta, who I thought did a wonderful job.
Oh no, definitely.
Written by Nia DaCosta, Megan McDonnell, and Eliza Karasik. I think I've done that right. Although we should probably warn any new listeners that we're quite famous for mispronouncing names.
Infamous.
Produced by Kevin Feige. Cinematography by Sean Bobbitt. That's a cool name.
It is a cool name, actually.
Music by Laura Cartman. Again, brilliant music.
Brilliant. The music in this is so good. It's mixed wonderfully and married to the most amazing scenes. I'm thinking the action scenes at the beginning where they first work out that they're teleporting and they're in Saber in space.
Yes.
Saber, and then they're in the household, the Khan household. It's great.
So good.
Yeah. Round of applause. That's just so good.
And it's got a runtime of 105 minutes, which is one of the shorter MCU films, but obviously we'll discuss that towards the end. So, Alex, let's talk about the cast.
Yeah, Brie Larson returning as Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel. Tiona Paris as Monica Rambeau. Iman Vellani, the fantastic Iman Vellani, as Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. You've got Azor Ashton. I didn't like her as Darben.
Tom Hiddleston's wife.
Yes, I know. I'm sorry, Tom. I'm sorry, Zori, but I don't like your wooden acting. A Kree warrior revolutionary wielding an accuser's hammer and an identical bangle to Kamala's, who tried to restore her homeland after a civil war. Apparently, director Neil DaCosta encouraged Ashton to prioritise her agility and strength in her training, apparently not in her acting skills.
No, she's actually a very good actress. She's got some good chops.
Sure, but not for this film.
I've seen her on stage with Charlie Cox and Tom Hiddleston.
That's where she should have stayed.
It was called Betrayal back in 2019. I saw it in my other half, and it was very good. 3 phenomenal actors. But I'm sure we'll no doubt talk about Ashton a little bit more shortly.
What gave you that idea? We've got Gary Lewis as Emperor Droj, the leader of the Skull Colony on the planet Tarnax. We've got Park Seo-joon as Prince Yan. There's a reason why you asked to go through this, because of all the names.
Yeah.
I can see what you've just done there.
Stitch you up.
Yeah. The charismatic prince of the planet Aladna, who is Danvers' husband and ally. I don't get that. Zenobra Shoff as Muneeba Khan, Kamala's mother. Mohan Kapoor as Yusuf Khan, Kamala's father. And Sagar Sheikh as Amir Khan, Kamala's older brother.
Not the boxer.
Nope. Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. Of course, he's former director of S.H.I.E.L.D. working as Sabre in the low Earth orbit with the Skrulls. Plot?
Let's go. To kick things off, Carol Danvers defies the influence of the Supreme Intelligence and destroys it, which leads to a Kree civil war and the desolation of their homeworld, Hala. The conflict renders the planet barren as it loses its air, oxygen and sunlight. I mean, how the Kree are still going on that place is...
No idea.
If that happened on planet Earth, I think we'd all be brown bread by now. Darben, the new leader of the Kree, retrieves one of the quantum bands, of which Kamala Khan has the other half. I've got beef about these quantum bands. We'll talk about that at the end. Darben harnesses the power of the band to tear open a jump point in space. The resulting anomaly is discovered by S.W.O.R.D. The thing I did like about those tears, it looks very similar to when the Guardians jump in their ship.
So it's the same technology. Yeah.
They haven't gotten rid of that in the MCU. It's still a thing. It's really cool.
It's the established way of traversing space.
It's like a hexagon, isn't it?
It is. No, I like it. I agree. It's aesthetically pleasing and also kind of makes sense if you need to kind of cross vast distances.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Nick Fury, now residing at the Sabre space station, hosts peace talks between the Kree and the Skrulls. Monica Rambeau investigates the jump point anomaly near Sabre, while Danvers investigates the source where Darben found the quantum band.
This is on... Is it the moon or a moon?
I think it's on the moon.
Yeah, it looked like it when they were coming into our solar system. But what's it doing on the moon, though?
Yeah.
Because, famously, that's where you get the Inhumans.
Doesn't she crack open a rock as well, where it piles out?
Yeah, some kind of statue. And the Inhumans were on the moon, the dark side of the moon.
Yeah.
So it looks like they're taking some reference point, but not going all the way.
I'm sure will happen at some point in the MCU. Much to the internet's complaints, no doubt. When Rambeau touches the anomaly, she, Danvers and Kamala switch places through teleportation. The switching causes the three to fight each other's Kree enemies, leaving the Khan family home destroyed in their wake.
It's amazing.
It's a great sequence. It's just chaotic.
It really is. And you've got family members kicking the shit out of Kree. And then you've got poor Kamala who's flying through the air, not being able to, fly. She's falling through the air, should I say. And it's Also, you got Carol, poor Carol, who's just perplexed about what's going on.
Yeah.
Again, punching the crap out of everything. It's really good. And then there's a Flurkin. Eating
Oh,
things.
yes. Just eating furniture. Is eating Kree warriors.
That's fantastic.
In fact, he eats the Kree warriors and spits them back out in the Khan house.
Yeah. Not good.
Right, where are we? After the three women return to their original places, Fury and Rambo visit Kamala on Earth. As Kamala eagerly demonstrates her powers, she switches place with Danvers. When Danvers flies away, she switches places with Kamala in midair. And again, it's that moment of suspense. You've got Rambo. She flies up, tries to catch her, but of course her powers are light-based.
Yeah.
I think they all are, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Light-based, but she sort of flies through Kamala, if I recall.
She does, yeah. She phases through, can't hold on to her. And then, I mean, that's one way of learning how to fly, is by actually having to save someone's life.
And you've got Kamala trying to produce those sort of light platforms she creates, and she's like bouncing off of them.
It's a good sequence.
It really is. The group surmises that their light-based powers are linked through quantum entanglement, and that they switch places when any of the three use their powers simultaneously. So it's a bit like me and you, Alex.
Mm-hmm.
If we were to use our powers at the same time, we'd swap places.
Cool.
That's the best way to describe it, isn't
I'm
it?
not quite sure. I like the idea of being on the left-hand side of the mic as opposed to the right, but I can give it a go.
I quite like stage left.
Yeah.
You're in control, you've got the laptop and everything next to you.
I'm not sure anyone's really in control of this podcast, but it's a nice thing to pretend all the same, Dan.
Absolutely. The three join up at a Skrull refugee colony on the planet Tarnax, where talks of resettlement have dissolved. It's not looking good. Darben arrives. She rips open another jump point, which siphons the atmosphere of Tarnax into Hala and destroys its air. After a hasty effort to evacuate the colony, Danvers, Rambo and Kamala form a team informally referred to by Kamala as the Marvels. I think we talked about this in the On The Go episode. It's a quick lesson for Kamala Khan in superhero.
Yeah.
She wants to try and save everyone. And of course,
She can't do it.
she can't. In fact, Carol says to her, "We can't save everyone." And the horror on her face, she looks upset, she looks angry. I'm a little bit sad that beef wasn't held on to just a little bit longer.
Beef?
That anger.
Oh, right, yeah.
Sort of take it out on Carol a little bit.
But it's interesting because obviously she looks to Carol as like the saviour of the world, and sure enough she is really in literal sense with Endgame. So to see her say, no, actually on this occasion, they're brown bread.
Yeah.
That can't be easy, you know, when you look up to someone like that, who's your literal, I know we're crossing publishers here, but you're Superman.
Yeah.
Or Superwoman. And yeah, she's like, no, on this occasion, there's no chance. They ain't surviving that. And that's going to be quite difficult, I guess, if you look up to someone as a mentor. And you can see it. And it's wonderfully portrayed by Iman Vellani. So good. You can see, just as you say, that distress and that realisation that actually there are some hard choices to make. It's not just putting on an outfit and kicking the crap out of people. People will die. And I think you made reference to it either when we were walking or actually on the episode. And you did actually on both. There's synergies with Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's naive as you go from Homecoming to then Endgame. And a lot happens between those two. I mean, obviously, 3 or 4 films, but he goes very quickly from being very naive, and there's a bit of a fallout in Germany, in Civil War, to people are dying, and there's space beings ripping up planet Earth and making people dust. I think it's the same for Kamala. She's certainly seeing like the uglier side of being a superhero.
Yeah.
And it's wonderfully managed.
In fact, I think this is one of your favourite moments from Homecoming, was when Peter's in the car with the Vulture.
I think it's one of the best MCU moments in the last 10 years.
The horror on Peter's face, and you can kind of see it in Iman Vellani's face when things like that happen to her, and she's like, oh my god.
The penny drops, and they know that actually it's game time.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good.
So good. It's just brilliant writing.
100%.
Danvers informs the others of the legend that the quantum bands had been used to create the Jump Point transportation network. The three become entangled due to their mutual contacts with its energy when Dar-Ben disrupted it.
Sure. Maybe.
Science.
Yep.
Dar-Ben's repeated rupturing... Best way to describe anything, isn't it?
Science.
Dar-Ben's repeated rupturing of jump points is causing instability to the network and endangering the entire universe.
Sure is.
Dar-Ben reaches the water planet...
Aladna?
Aladna, yeah. I was nearly about to swear then. Where she tears open a jump point to draw the ocean water into Hala. Her final plan is to usurp Earth's sun to restore that of Hala. Quite like the old sequence in Aladna where they're all singing.
Different.
It's not really a musical to what a lot of reviewers were saying.
No.
It brings something different.
I agree. It's a bit of a curveball, but it's interesting.
But we find out the Prince is bilingual, so he doesn't have to sing all the time.
He doesn't.
He can speak English.
It's an interesting concept. Star Trek Strange New World Season 2 have just done that, and of a similar ilk. So again, apologies, listener, if you're going, Alex, I'm not interested in Star Trek, but it's the Enterprise, but before Captain Kirk. And you've got Captain Pike, who, interesting enough, Deadbolt, the actor who plays him, he plays Captain Pike in Star Trek. They end up doing something to space-time, and they always erupt into song when something's happening. And it's actually quite a comical episode. They don't take themselves seriously, obviously. They're all running around dancing and coordinated singing the rest of it. But it's a really interesting, strange episode, but it strangely works. And they're singing the plot of the program, the storyline. Not just songs or peak performances. It's kind of similar to this, that they're describing what's happening but in song. Yeah, it's interesting, and I like what they've done. I think you'll either like it or you'll hate it, and we've got some feedback in the socials about that at the end. I'm in two places, but again, there's all these different strange planets out there that we haven't really seen too much of. A lot of them are going to be ravaged by the baddies in Guardians of the Galaxy, or the Ilk. So it's quite nice to see again that expanded universe. Yeah. And uncover a little bit more about Captain Marvel's background. What she's been up to for the last couple of years.
Because we don't really know.
No, she's been flying around. She's been saving people, which is lovely. But apparently, she's also got married. It's a marriage of convenience.
Yeah, they've also done the sing-song thing in Buffy. I think some supernatural thing happened. There's an episode, you say it's like Marmite, isn't it?
Yeah.
I quite enjoyed the episode, whereas my other half, she was like, I hate it. I really hate it.
It can be jarring, but I think it just about works.
It works for this.
I think so.
It's not over the top, it's not overkill, it's just there.
Yeah, means to an end.
The Marvels fight and subdue Dar-Ben, but she steals Kamala's band and uses both bangles to tear open another hole in space.
She tore a new one.
She did. Now this is where I've got a bit of beef. The act destroys Dar-Ben because this is a lot of energy. It's a lot of. It's almost like holding an Infinity Stone. She literally, she just blows up. That's it. She's brown bread.
Yep.
And leaves behind a rupture in the multiverse. After Kamala reclaims the bands, she and Danvers use their combined powers to energise Rambo, allowing her to close the hole from the other side, stranding her in the process. So if Dar-Ben can use both bangles and cark it, how was Kamala able to do it? Or are we just hinting at the fact that she's possibly a mutant, or she is a mutant?
She is a mutant. Yeah, and
it just affects her in a different way.
That might be the answer, that they're used to controlling immense amounts of power, and Dar-Ben's not.
But then you could say the same for Peter Quill. He was half god.
Yeah, he's half
held an Infinity Stone probably for longer, but it still would have destroyed him.
Science.
I feel like that needs to be in the episode title somewhere.
I think so.
Oh boy.
I don't know, Dan. You're right. It's a plot hole. Not sure.
Anyway, Danvers flies into Haller's sun and uses her power to restore it.
She could have done that 95 minutes previously.
But then we'd have no Marvel's film.
Yeah, true.
I mean, it's like a lot of things, isn't it?
But that's all she needs to do. It was just the sun that was a problem. Well, reignite it, fly through it, you did that. But yeah, as you say, you can say about a lot of films, really.
Yeah.
If they only sat down, had a cup of tea, they'd never gone to war and they would never be baddies.
Yep.
They could have hashed it out.
It's like Wonder. Oh, I want my kids. They could have gone, oh yeah, there you go then.
Yeah.
Sorted. Bosh. And that's it. Multiverse of Madness didn't even have to happen.
Let's help you go to a multiversal instance where they don't have a mum. And there you go.
Sorted.
Job done. Stop killing people.
Roll credits. The short-lived team-up inspires Kamala to seek out other heroes and form a new group, starting with Kate Bishop. I kind of knew that was coming because it cuts to a scene, you see a dog on the floor and you see a bit of pizza thrown. I was like,
we know the dog.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
It's a really cool sequence.
Yeah, it's a riff on Iron Man, isn't it? At the end. And instead of Nick Fury, you have Kamala
Khan
in the chair, and she's obviously very excited. She doesn't quite have the same
grit, I would probably say.
Yeah, or smoothness. Obviously, she's very excited.
She's not carrying around a pistol that puts people to sleep.
No.
But it's really good. And you can sort of see Kate Bishop's face light up when she goes.
Yeah, because Kate's of a similar ilk. She's quite excited to obviously be part of that world. So you got two fam girls in the mix, which obviously is going to make for, I think, some entertainment.
Yeah. I think it's definitely coming, right? They've hinted long enough.
Yes.
We'll get a Young Avengers film at some point before Secret Wars.
I think it'd be pretty good, I don't... They've got to do something at some point, because the OG cast have all but disbanded. You've got to build from the ground up, and I think this is a way of doing it.
You've already got the Hulk's son as well in She-Hulk, which was just out of the blue.
Yeah. Hopefully we don't see more of him.
The CGI was so poor.
Oh, so bad. It's just not needed.
No. Roll credits, and then we get the mid-credit scene where Rambo awakes in a parallel universe where she's greeted by an alternate version of her mother, Maria. But not really her mother.
No.
And mutant scientist Hank McCoy.
That CGI was ropes.
Yeah, I think that's the only part where they really shit the bed.
I agree.
Beast looks awful, but
yeah.
Do you know what? I'll take it, given that the quality was so much better in this film.
And you know what? I'd have to guess and say that was probably one of the last things to film, and that was probably rushed. I don't think they would have fully committed until that point, and they probably did a reshoot. That's probably why it looked, because it's not that difficult. They already had the prosthetics of the new class.
Yeah.
And that they could have done that. They just chose. Well, I guess they didn't have makeup artists to be able to create the prosthetics in time, so they went with CGI. It was easier, and obviously it was rushed. Because the rest of the film, CGI was chef's kiss.
Yeah,
it was on par with Guardians of the Galaxy, whether they used the same artists, I don't know, but what they used was good. It was really good. It was the right amount. It wasn't over-egged, and it had the right amount of depth and colour and finish, unlike most of the other fucking projects in Phase 5.
Yeah, and Phase 4.
So everything up to that point was good, which is why I think it was rushed. Or unless someone was sleeping on the job.
Ran out of money, apparently. Then you look at the budget.
Yeah. Well, they spent it hoping for it to be returned.
But it would also explain where mutants have been hiding for the last... since 2008 in the MCU.
A different universe.
But then, back in 2008, Fox owned the rights to X-Men, Mutants, Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
There was probably no plan.
Nope.
Until Disney acquired Fox, it was like,
we can
use these characters now.
Yeah.
But how do we explain where mutants are in 616?
It's almost landed in their laps, really, this whole multiversal.
Yeah.
Explains science.
And that's it. That's how you bring them in. We'll have an incursion, Secret Wars, and then
Bosh.
soft reset.
Love it.
And there we go. Mutants in the MCU. That's what we all want, right?
That's what it's building to. I mean, you've got to cash in, and that's where Deadpool's going to shine the brightest.
However, talking about mutants, She-Hulk, didn't that reference Wolverine? A mutant with claws. I think it was on the paper. I think it was like a small Easter egg.
Well, it could have been, or it could have been Sabretooth, or it could have been a different mutant altogether.
Well, if you're a fan of She-Hulk and you haven't listened to that review yet, go back, because I'm sure we had some Easter eggs in that one.
Guess what? It's in there too. I think you did reel off a lot of Easter eggs, actually. That seems cool.
Tend to do that with the series, but I've sort of drawn it back a little bit.
Be yourself, Dan. Be yourself.
Yeah. So that's it. That is the plot.
That is the film wrapped up in a nice bow. What did critics say?
The review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes reported an approval rating of 62%, with an average score of 5.9 out of 10, based on 318 reviews. The website's critical consensus reads, funny, refreshingly brief, and elevated by the chemistry of its three leads, the Marvels, is easy to enjoy in the moment, despite its cluttered story and jumbled tonal shifts. I think the last bit's a little bit harsh, but otherwise, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I don't think it's too jarring or jumbled, personally. The audience, Dan, 83%.
Oh, there we go.
Fun characters, adders, and entertaining, fast-paced story make the Marvels an enjoyable addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Slightly more positive, which is interesting, given the low box office take. But clearly those who do actually end up going to cinema, making the effort to go and watch it, do enjoy it.
I think it's quite good. I said this on the Go review. It's the cosmic adventure I wanted Thor: Love and Thunder to be.
Yeah. No, definitely.
It's well paced. It's not over the top. It's very simple, and the writing's really good. That's all it needed to be. It doesn't need to be any longer than 145 minutes. It's perfect. Well, it's not a perfect film, but it's perfect for what it is. It's good enough. I've actually pulled out one review which stood out to me. So the review is from Abby Olsees from Paste, rated the film an 8.5 out of 10 and praised the film for playing with genre and pulling aesthetics from the Ms. Marvel streaming series. She felt that DaCosta's assured, efficient direction was an example of what the MCU could have been if the franchise hadn't gotten bogged down by gloopy effects and overblown lore.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that was just one review I picked out which just stood out, and I thought, yeah, that's a fair point. Because when you look at some of the previous films like Quantumania, it's a bit like, oh, okay, but this is good.
I agree. Should we get into our thoughts, Dan?
Yep. Likes, dislikes, overall thoughts. Kick things off, Alex. What were your likes?
Iman Vellani.
Fantastic.
She's always going to be good. I liked Miss Marvel. Didn't love it. I thought that the pacing was off, but I liked it. I liked it for the cast and the casting. She carried this film.
100%.
And that's not a bad thing, by the way. I think that mostly Brie Larson and Teyonah Parris did splendid jobs.
Yeah.
I don't care what any of these incels say in their mums' basements, tapping away on their keyboards furiously about Brie Larson. She did a good job, and actually, I think she was, retrospectively, a victim of poor script work and storyline of Captain Marvel.
Yeah, for
she
sure.
was wooden. I don't disagree with what you said. I think in the On The Go episode where she has to be a soldier and she's programmed that way. But I think, and that is probably good enough explanation as to why she perhaps acted that way. But even if you put those to the side, yet she actually showed humanity in this film. Regret, sadness, optimism, all those other kind of words you could use which evoke emotion. I think she showed that range. So for me, the casting was fantastic. I'll talk about Zora Ashton in a bit. But it was nice to have Zenobia, Mohan and Amir back as Kamala's family.
Yeah.
They were great.
They get a ride into space as well.
Exactly. And you just think, can a TV streaming cast make that jump to film? And they do.
They do.
So even if you haven't seen a TV program, that's proper 90s, streaming series, you can still find light relief in those characters, and they're lovable and they're enjoyable, and they make that jump from streaming to film wonderfully.
Put your teeth in.
I know. I'll stop drinking before we go to record. It's obviously nice to see Samuel Jackson.
Oh, it brings such good light relief.
And he punctuates certain scenes. You don't have to have the Samuel L. Jackson show, and nor is it. There's a little bit of sprinkling of special dust on an otherwise good film. And I think that's, for me, Dan, and listening to the casting, was spot on. We talked about the music. I think the music was perfectly complemented throughout the film. This is where I think they really nailed it. We're not talking about rousing scores. We're actually talking about, like R&B beats, and at times, I don't know, techno. It was such an eclectic mix to kind of marry with just the bonkers scenes and planets that they were visiting. For me, I thought that was fantastic. Storyline, I think, was particularly well paced.
Yes.
100 and how many minutes?
105, so about 45, 104. 1 hour, 45 minutes. See, it's my turn to put the teeth in there.
And I enjoyed every single minute of it. I don't think any of them really were slow. I thought it all worked logically, one scene or one section into another. Alright, that sing-song planet was a bit odd, but they had to have the final showdown somewhere.
Yep.
And it kind of makes sense that was a target, so to have it there and you have the battle. I think that's all it needs to be for me. I'm probably doing it a great injustice by not mentioning a whole litany of other things, but I think it's a well-rounded film, Dan. I can't really say there was anything particularly that stood out that was fantastic. It was just good. And given that all the other films before this have been quite bleak and a little bit miserable, and they have to be because of Kang.
A bit beige.
100%. This is incredibly colourful and eclectic, and I think that's kind of what we needed in the MCU. Even look at Guardians of the Galaxy, which is famously colourful, rich with music, and that still was there, by the way, but that was quite dark and sad at times and tear-jerking. And it needs to be for the storylines, don't get me wrong, but this was fun. Yeah. This was a fun film. And I still talk about it now, and I hope you can hear this in my voice, listener, and Dan seeing me in person. I think of it fondly. I'm smiling. I enjoyed the film. So again, you can shut up those incels in their mother's basements. Ignore what they say, and just based on that, I mean, there are some bits I don't like. I'll talk about them in a minute, but for the most part, go and see this film. Yeah, for sure. It's really fun. And guess what? You've still got time to do something else for the rest of your day, because it is not that long. No, as we say, it's an hour 45. Just to sort of back up what you've said, really. So my likes, I liked that they actually fleshed out Carol emotionally. Yeah. Because there was a bit where she actually opens up. She's sort of bordering on tears. She doesn't quite get there, but she said, I didn't come back to Earth because I was scared of failing. Yeah. And I was like, wow, okay, they've actually done something with her now as a character. I agree. There's a thought process there. She's consciously decided, and you kind of get that, I guess, in either post-credits or in Endgame. She's like, she chooses not to be on Earth. She's kind of always at arm's length, even though she could be there in the flash of an eye. I liked it. Good, simple, but good explanation. As you say, gives depth to the character. Mentioned it before, Kamala gets a tough lesson in superhero duties. So you can't save everyone. No. And again, Iman Vellani, she's just fantastic. I mean, Ms. Marvel isn't a character that I've always particularly been drawn to, whether it was comics or the Avengers game. Just found her a bit corny, but I'm here for it. I'm here for the live action version of Kamala Khan, because Iman Vellani just carries this film. She nails it. She's a fantastic actress, and she portrays every emotion so well.
from the shock of a Flurkin eating some Kree warriors to going through space. In fact, it reminded me at one point where they're flying through space and you see her eyes starting to widen. Steve Rogers does the exact same thing in Endgame.
True, yeah, when they're in space the first time.
It's so good.
It is very good.
Yeah, that's just to sort of flesh out some of your likes. So you sort of pretty much nailed on what I had in my notes. And Nick Fury, just brilliant. You don't need too much of him.
No.
He's just dotted in and just punchy little one-liners. Which, I mean, at times I think I turned to you all like we were just audibly laughing.
Yeah. Yeah, again, we haven't done that since probably John Wick 3.
John Wick 3, yeah.
Where people were probably
bleak.
pissed off with us. But, yeah, we were laughing our heads off.
All right, dislikes. Zora Ashton.
Yeah.
Should we kick things off?
Very wooden. Your archetypal British... She's British?
Yes.
It's got to be. Villain. Very stereotypical. I kind of get the background. She's a member of the planet who ends up wanting to kind of restore it, and she sees that Captain Marvel took that from them. And by the way, that the fleshing out the backstory of that, which she said she would go back to the Kree homeworld and make them pay, and she does, but in so doing, she ends up making herself look like she's the villain. And I know I'm cheating here by going back to one of the positives, but I think fleshing out and how that ended up, I thought was really smart. Because again, it is a Captain Marvel film. Doesn't really feel like it, but it is.
No.
And I think that dynamic does work because they would look to her as the world killer, because when she killed the artificial intelligence, society broke down and everything ended up going to pot for that planet. So I got it. By conversely, didn't see that character necessarily naturally stepping up and being the leader of the people. And her performance, I'm sorry, Dan, I'm sure she's great on stage, and that's harder somewhat to do, I'm told, than it is on acting on the big screen. I don't think she can act.
Yeah.
Just personally, that's just what I've seen. I didn't like it. I thought she was the weakest link.
Because Dar-Ben should be an interesting character, and I don't feel like I've put in my notes, I said I don't feel like they gave her much depth.
No.
You understand what her motivations are, because Carol's essentially taken everything away from her and her people.
Contrary to some critics who didn't watch the film, apparently.
Yeah.
But
But she's out there to take those things back that are linked to Carol.
Which makes sense.
It makes sense, but so maybe it is the acting. Maybe that's why I wasn't sort of quite drawn in. But then the film didn't really need to be about the villain.
No.
Again, it was all about fleshing out Kamala Khan,
Yep.
Carol, and we got a little bit of Monica Rambeau as well.
And apart from the mid-credit scene with the CGI, I really can't put my finger on anything that I thought was particularly bad, Dan.
No.
I've struggled.
The only bit I did mention earlier was about the bangles. Dar-Ben and Karksit using both of these bangles, but Kamala's fine. But do you know what? It's fine.
Actually, linked to that, there is one thing that actually isn't to do with this particular film, but I just find that Kevin needs to sort this out pretty quick, because it's near Two-Face and it hasn't been described since or explained. When are they going to explain there's a big fuck-off Eternal that's frozen and jutting out of Earth's atmosphere?
Apart from referencing it once
in She-Hulk and paper, but when?
It's going to be part of the plot, isn't it, for Captain America 4 and the Thunderbolts. Both
or potentially
films.
as a source of new power or something, but I don't know.
Both films have been pushed back, haven't they, to 2025. I think
it's literally massive.
We get one film next year, which is Deadpool.
Yeah, but I think that's going to be like the soft reboot. It's needed to have its screen time. I don't know, Dan. That's not necessarily a slight on the film. Just more generally, Kevin needs to do something else with that, because that was a big film. It did make some money actually in the end, surprisingly, even though it wasn't the strongest. What are they going to do with it? That's literally a world-defining moment, and so many films have passed it by. What, 5 or 6 films since? Count the TV shows. I don't like that.
We get one reference. That's it. One reference.
And that's just in a website or something. So, otherwise, Dan, I'm really struggling, and that might be, rose-tinted glasses. I'm really struggling to think what I didn't like.
Which leads us into overall thoughts. For me, easily a top mid MCU film. It delivers a well-paced, action-packed, light-hearted 1 hour 45 minutes. Nothing more needs to be said about that. It's just a shame for me that toxic social media has impacted on the box office. And don't get me wrong, toxic social media can work both ways. You can either be very defensive about it, or you can be a complete dickhead about it. I don't understand how people can call this film a flop when they haven't seen it.
Well, they're calling it a flop before it's even released.
Exactly. If you haven't seen it, you should go and see it. If you've got to this point of the podcast and you've heard us talk about the plot, you've heard our thoughts, give it a go. Don't listen to Tim from Norwich because he's been a negative boo-boo about it.
Yeah.
Formulate your own opinion. I grew up in the 90s. I fell in love with Spider-Man and the X-Men when I was 8, 9 years old. So I feel quite defensive about Marvel. These are the films and TV series I wanted as a kid. All right. Some of them haven't been perfect. We've talked about it for God knows how many minutes in previous episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I try to challenge people, if you think it's a flop, why is it a flop? And some people haven't given me a straight answer. I got called a shill.
What's that?
Let me Google it.
A shill.
A shill.
I'm sure it's not a positive thing.
I had to look it up. An accomplice of a confidence trickster or swindler who poses a genuine customer to entice or encourage others.
Oh, so you're in on it?
Apparently so. I mean, if I'm working for Marvel, boy, they don't pay me well.
Bob Iger needs to put his hand in his pocket.
Kev, if you're listening, I'm obviously a shill. You should probably pay me for my positivity on...
Where's my money, man?
You should pay me for my positive comments on Facebook.
There you go. or else...
I've got nothing.
Just pay up.
I'm not a violent person. I'm not going to go and tow his door in
no.
for money. Could do. I'm from Portsmouth.
But you know better than that.
I know better than that.
But I don't disagree with you, Dan. I don't think I've really got anything to add. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was well paced. I think it did everything it needed to do and was a light relief on what has otherwise been a bit of a miserable, tonally speaking, run in the last couple of films. I wanted just to give some feedback from Iman Vellani herself, actually, on terms of the performance of the box office.
I wonder if it's the same quote that you've got that I've copied and pasted into my notes.
Probably, and I think it's quite mature, actually. Not that she's particularly young, but I think it's a world-wise kind of perspective of things. Apparently, she said on the early box office numbers and how it's projected, she said, "I don't want to focus on something that's not even in my control because what's the point?" She further gave a nod to Disney's CEO, adding, "That's for Bob Iger." She said, "The box office has nothing to do with me," she continued. "I'm happy with the finished product, and the people that I care about enjoyed the film. It's genuinely a good time watching this movie, and that's all we can ask from these films." It has superheroes, it takes place in space, it's not that deep, and it's about teamwork and sisterhood. It's a fun movie, and I'm just so happy that I can share it with the people, she said. Fair. Yeah. I think there's nothing else, actually, any of that cast, any of that crew could have done to make it any better. And nor should they have to justify themselves in what is clearly a shot at the genre and of the Marvel production, the Disney Marvel production line. It has been tarnished and it has shifted some poor content, and true enough, Dan, as you say, we have talked about that recently, but for this film, not many people clearly have seen it, and rightly or wrongly, that's obviously impacting people's appetite and Feige's plans for the rest of the phases. It's marred, of course, with Jonathan Majors, and we'll talk about that in an upcoming episode about where does that leave the MCU. But I think she's spot on.
Yeah.
All that matters is what people believe when they go and see it, or at least I'm lifting her words and making it my own. But yeah, go watch it, go enjoy it. Don't listen, as Dan said, to what other people think. Make your own informed opinions. If you enjoy Marvel films, go watch it. It's a really enjoyable hour and 40 minutes.
It becomes a vicious cycle. The box office suffers because of the negativity on social media, and that negative social media then swings back around to a poor box office.
And then you won't get those films that you're angling for, and you may not see The Secret Wars. You may not see the Fantastic Four, because guess what? People have given negative opinions on things they haven't seen, and they don't have any right to do.
If you don't bring the bank in, you ain't going to get those films.
You've got to invest.
It's a bigger picture at the end of the day.
It is.
You finished it all for me. So, Alex, over to the listener. So we've got a couple. On Facebook we've got Lead. I think that's Lead? Lead?
Go with Lead.
Let's go with Lead. It was good. Solid 90 minutes that didn't shit the bed. Developed the characters a little, and you can tell no one went to see it because no one is screaming the place down about the mid-credit sequence.
100%.
Agreed.
Yeah. That in any other world, multiverse or otherwise, people would be losing their damn minds. This is everything everyone wanted outside of Doctor Strange 2 with Patrick Stewart, and no one's talking about this.
Yeah.
Don't get it.
We mentioned it. This is how mutants finally come into play.
No one is shouting from the rooftops. Very odd. So yeah, 100% lead. Or lead.
And then Instagram, we got Monster Jambroni. Is that like The Rock Jambroni?
I love it.
Jambroni.
Yeah.
They said, I think The Marvels is a 6 out of 10. I think it's pretty okay.
It's fair.
My favourite character is Ms. Marvel. She's a true hero with a big heart. That's spot on.
Yeah.
Totally agree. I think it has good action sequences. I love the kittens. However, I felt the music planet was out of place. It didn't feel like it should be in a Marvel movie. I also think that Captain Marvel was a jerk.
Yeah, that is interesting. I think I believed everything up until the last part, but we appreciate everyone's opinions here on the OTT. And that's fair enough.
To be fair, I think Captain Marvel is a bit of a jerk in the comics as well. It's just always sort of very cold and sarcastic.
Very focused, yeah.
Very focused,
yeah.
But I can't add more to that.
Fair comments.
And that's it. That wraps up our review of The Marvel. So, Lead, Jambroni, thank you for getting involved.
Yeah, thank you for giving us your comments. And look, if you are one of those people that have left it perhaps a couple of weeks after it's opened and you're still going to go and see it and you're still here listening, let us know what your thoughts have been since you've gone to see it. Contact us. You don't have to leave it on the comments on the post. You can send us a direct message or you can drop us an email. But we are keen to hear on this one because if people don't have a voice, they may not get what they want in the future. And I think, whilst I'm not saying that this podcast obviously has any influence on the big machine churning out these lovely films, nonetheless, I think people should be talking about it and discussing what their thoughts and opinions are, because we run the risk of not creating that conversation and missing out on the films we love.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you've talked about it before as well. If a studio doesn't bring in the money, it can collapse.
Yes.
Goes out of business.
And it's the same for games. I'm stretching here, but if you look at Days Gone, developer who did that for PlayStation or PS4, I think. That was a game that's all about zombie apocalypse and survival. It didn't do so great in the early initial sales and ended up being one of those cult classics a couple of years later, and people were picking it up and second-hand everything. And we're not going to get into the whole second-hand market aspect on this episode. We talked about it before. But they were like, well, why didn't you buy it or rave about it when it was released, because the studio's now just about gone out of business, and you didn't like it then, so there's no right that you have it a second time around. And something makes me feel like this is going to have to be the same for films at some point. You're going to have to go, I get that it's saturated, and I get that we have been stung by piss poor performances either by the cast, the crew, or otherwise, but if we don't create that dialogue and we give that feedback, they're only going to go off the box office, and that's going to say to people they're not interested anymore. And I don't think that's the case. So some people have checked out, and I understand why, but I don't think a lot of people have. But if we don't engage in it, we're going to lose that opportunity, and I think that's sad.
Sadly, casual fans do exist, and that's fine. If you want to dip in and out, that's on you.
Yeah,
you know,
that's okay.
You do you. But don't bring your negativity to social media
that you haven't seen.
People.
That you haven't seen. You've got to see it, and clearly not a lot of people have. So go watch it, go see it, and if you're still pants, it's still pants, and that's fine. But it's not right to say that something's a flop even before it's been released, because you're leading the audience to perhaps an end destination that perhaps people don't like.
But look forward to talking about the future of the MCU.
Yeah,
probably won't be till next year now, because we've got quite a run up towards the end of the year.
We're jam packed down. Crikey, what have we got? We've got our Christmas countdown. Well, our Christmas roundup.
Yes.
Our new annual OTT awards.
Can't wait.
I started to write that.
Have you?
I shared it with you. Today or yesterday?
Yes.
Some of my award categories and runners up and our winners, or my proposed winners.
We'll probably put some polls out on the socials as well.
That's a good shout.
You're quite good at your polls. We'll
do a poll.
We've got a Christmas Day speech.
We do.
I feel like we should do a poll as well. We were going to review Loki, but you've talked about life simulation.
Yeah.
Or maybe we just do both. We'll do the life simulation New Year.
Perhaps a New Year. Start off with a bang. We might do a Loki season 2 wrap up, and of course it's got ramifications for the wider MCU and the final screens.
I actually really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to sharing my thoughts with you on that one.
Yeah, it'd be good.
I think we should do it. It won't probably be for a couple of weeks because you've got your birthday.
Yeah, got some celebrations to partake in, and the rest of it. So yeah, we'll have a week's hiatus and then back on it.
Be our second week we've missed since you've been back from your holidays. Back in August.
It's a good run.
It's been a good run. And then most anticipated 2024. So when we start putting those things up on the socials, we want to hear what you're looking forward to. One of my favourite annual episodes, actually.
No, it's really good. We look ahead positively to things that have yet to happen and things that hopefully will come to pass. And that could be anything from books, comics, TV streams, to films, to music and anything and everything. So a really good opportunity to get in there early, guys and girls, and otherwise let us know what your thoughts are in terms of what's hopefully you're looking forward to next year. It doesn't have to actually be about anything to do with consumable media. It could be anything. It could be holidays.
Yeah.
It could be getting married. It could be doing anything and everything. So we're actually keen to hear from you about what you're looking forward to in 2024.
Absolutely. If you want to get in touch, we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Should probably use Threads a bit more, but it's at On The Topic Pod. And we've got Gmail, which is On The Topic Podcast at gmail.com. And then, Alex, we've got YouTube and WordPress.
Yeah, WordPress is ontopicpodcast.wordpress.com. Go have a look and you can stream all of our back catalogue, also including the weekly roundup days on there as well. Subscribe to our newsletter and be notified when we drop an episode. And on YouTube, we've got subscribes coming through. We've got plenty of people streaming. Not quite sure what they're doing. As I mentioned before, not because you shouldn't be doing it, but maybe because, when would you listen to a podcast on YouTube? But perhaps you don't have one of preference and you found us by going down that rabbit hole on YouTube. Thank you anyway for subscribing and for visiting and for streaming. Give us a like, give us a subscribe and a notification bell, and you'll be notified when this episode drops on YouTube.
Review and rate helps with the algorithms. It means a lot to us. And just recommend us to your friends and family if you enjoy what you're listening to.
Please do. That is OTTGITS or On Topic Podcast. and go have a look and listen to us there.
That's it. That is for another week.
It is.
I'm off to be a shill. I'm off to kick Kevin Feige's door down because I need my money. I'm Dan.
I'm going to go and kick some queer across my living room. I'm Alex.
And we'll see you soon.